We start by just talking about things that you can control and things you can't control. And people quickly realize that they have control over themselves and nothing else. You don't have any control over outside forces or other people. The next thing we do is questions that kind of ground them in their strengths in the present and where they've really excelled in the past.
When you're leading someone through goals, I found that sometimes it's almost like people don't people are so some people are used to it because they're in this world, but some people aren't. And it's almost like when I ask them, what do you really want? They don't really know. Right? Have you experienced that? And how do you navigate that? And how do you help someone connect to, like, what do they really want? Not what, society tells them they should want, not what their parents wanted for them, not what their wife or husband wants for them, but like, what do they really want? And I've just found it sometimes difficult, especially with people who are less initiated to this world, to get that breakthrough. Like, what do you do there, and what have you found?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think if you just sit someone down and say, what do you want? The mind could go many places, right? So, you had mentioned, I think, Berghoff earlier. I've studied a lot with him and just really formulating the right questions. So I like to start the event, the workshop, whatever you want to call it. And we start by just talking about things that you can control and things you can't control. And people quickly realize that they have control over themselves and nothing else. You don't have any control over outside forces or other people. The next thing we do is questions that kind of ground them in their strengths and in the present and where they've really excelled in the past. And then we do some journaling about kind of what they want their future to look like with some pointed questions. Then we do a visualization where we take them through their life, and we even take them towards the end of their life and asking them what they want to see. And usually that ends up being most people's favorite part. And then by the time we've gone through all that, from there, the goal setting just seems to kind of flow and happen effortlessly once they've gone through all of that. So that's how I do it.
That's awesome. And I think what I'm hearing there, and like the meta, kind of takeaway from my side, is when you're connected to, a vision, and you're also feeling the emotions, right? Because if you do a visualization and then you take someone to the end of their life and they're sitting kind of, quote unquote, in their rocking chair on the front porch, looking at the grandkids running around, and they're, what kind of cars in the driveway, what's the house look like, what are the relationships like, what's the quality of energy around the dinner table, and you actually have them really connect to that, better answers, right, are going to come forth. So this is just like really, really
100%.
good stuff, in terms of like a playbook where if you are struggling, you're probably listening to this. It's probably early in 2023 as you're listening to this, and now's a great time to think about what are you going to accomplish this year, right? And if you haven't gotten great answers, or it's been kind of wishy-washy, take some of the lessons that Josh has given us and put them to work there. But this is awesome.
Yeah, and I know in the book you break down SMART goals. You break down a lot of these good question asking that you can. I really love the little section. It was a small section about the taking a helicopter trip. Where was it? Belize, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So
You want me
a
to tell
little bit
that?
of adventure there. Yeah. I mean, if you want to tell the story, I was like, man, that was pretty
fun.
pretty
I want
badass.
to go.
That's I'd love for you to tell a story. Where I was getting to, I'll get to the end, and then I would love for you to riff on that. But I'm sure that inspiration came from doing your own like SMART goals activities. And what I would love to have you riff on is what are some of the cool shit that you and some of your audience and the clients that you've had and people you served. Maybe you can go on a whole rant of all the really cool stuff that some boxes that you've seen get checked. Like we've already heard about the Lambo. Now you're going to tell us about a helicopter trip in Belize. I would love to hear and maybe inspire some listeners of like, hey, here's a bunch of like cool things that I've witnessed or I've experienced because I set SMART goals and I followed this best version ever blueprint.
Yeah.
And yes, I want to hear that story.
No, totally. So, I mean, the whole point of the Belize helicopter story was, sometimes we set goals and then we set goals because we think that that's the goal we want to set, or we think that that would be a cool goal or that others expect from us. But when you really take, the SMART framework and ask, is this relevant to me? I was flying in a helicopter over the Great Blue Hole in Belize, and I just thought, okay, this is amazing. My goal next year is going to be to get my helicopter pilot's license. I want to do this a lot, right? So, and I'm a big fan of taking massive action and immediate action. That's one of the things we do at my events. But that day, or maybe right when I got home, I contacted a school in San Diego where you can get a helicopter pilot's license. Took an introductory flight. Was like, this is amazing. I'm all in, right? And then it's like, okay, what does this look like? Well, it's going to be 4 years of school. Oof, I'm already almost out. But then talking, it's like, never mind. So, okay, 4 years of school, I could probably swing that. Let's see. And the school's $60,000. Oof, okay. And then it was like, the kicker was like, okay, then what do you do? Well, you can rent a helicopter to use for thousands of dollars every time you want to use it, or you could buy one for $100,000 to $200,000. And so, at the end of the day, I had to ask, is this really relevant to me at my time in life, right? Am I going to spend $250,000 getting a license and buying a helicopter, or $100,000 getting a license and renting a helicopter? Or could I just take that money and pay a helicopter pilot to fly me in a helicopter whenever I get the itch? So the goal wasn't relevant to me in my place in life. And I can tell you, I haven't been in a helicopter since. And so what is that, like 5 years? So that's how we use that to break down, like, is this really relevant to you, or does it just sound awesome? And then anyway, that's the story of that. Getting back to what you had asked, what the goals that I've seen people achieve. My favorite one so far is, a year ago in December, I was doing an event in Southern California, and after the initial questions and the visualization, my friend Rob stands up and he says, I realized it's time to start a family. And you should have seen his fiance. She kind of looks at him and was like, oh, this is happening. So that was in December. In February, he comes home. There's a box on the table. He opens the box, and in the note it says, congratulations on crushing all your goals for this year. And underneath is a positive pregnancy test. They just had their daughter a few months ago. And he says that was from the event, which I find amazing. I don't know how I'll ever top that story. One of the ladies at the event called her boss and said, hey, I'm going to start working part-time right now because I need to follow my dream. Weight loss is a big one. We had a lady from last year's event. She lost 50 pounds this year. And then just, generally speaking, people have bought houses, started new careers, ended toxic relationships, began new relationships, right? Crushed sales goals. I remember a few years back, one of the agents wanted to sell 40 homes. That was his goal. He sold 140 last year.